What is up, YouTube? It is me, it is Monty. We are back again, once again, to start another little reading vlog. Now, me and the reading vlog, we are not besties, okay? Me and the reading vlog, I would say, like, that is my arch nemesis, but we're gonna attempt. We're gonna attempt to do it here. We're still gonna do true to the Monty fashion. We are not doing no coffee B-roll. We're not doing none of the other stuff. It's still gonna be me and you. And already, not only is this horrible light to start off this video, but you know what can I do? What can I do? It is gray outside. But one of the reasons I did not want to be doing this publicly facing content is I knew that some fuck shit was going to be happening in the Trump administration. And like, how do you not talk about it? How do you not talk about it? I woke up this morning. Today is January 3rd, I want to say. It's a Saturday. I think it's the 3rd. Oh, yeah, it's right here on my dashboard. Yeah, January 3rd. So I woke up this morning at like 6 o'clock because that's what one does when they got to be at work. So I woke up and I'm scrolling through TikTok, as one should not do. That's the worst thing you could probably do when you wake up. But I was up before the alarm. So it's like, if you're up before the alarm, that time doesn't really count. And so I was scrolling through, and what do I get but NBC News telling me that we have started bombing Venezuela. Now, I understand that we've already been bombing like boats and rafts and things in the Caribbean that I don't fully understand. Like, you can tell me that those are drug traffickers, but there's no reason for me to believe that those are drug traffickers, and so I just don't believe those are drug traffickers. Like, call me crazy, but I do not believe that we are bombing drug traffickers in the Caribbean. I think we were just bombing random boats and killing people that were not supposed to be killed. Because then I saw that, like, people, I think it was like the first time, they bombed it, and then there were survivors, and they're like, oh, we're going to bomb you again. Craziness. How do you not talk about this? But this morning, not only were we bombing Venezuela, but their president and his wife have been captured or maybe allegedly agreed to go. What? This is craziness, people. This is absolute craziness. And you want me to come up here and talk about what silly little romance I'm reading, or what little speculative novel, what kind of fantasy world I'm... Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So just know that I know that shit is happening out there when we're about to talk about this little book that I'm reading. I know that some fuck shit is happening, is going down. I'm aware of it. You should be aware of it. But I don't know how much we're going to be talking about it this week. Just know that I know. Just know that I'm aware. I'm a conscientious person in the universe. Sadly, I do have eyes to see and ears to listen, and they be doing those things. Now, I don't have a book to really talk about just yet. I have started The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead, because even though you guys haven't seen it at this time, as I'm talking to you, part of my plan is to film a best worst kind of superlative-esque video. It'd probably be all in one, because even though I read 100 and some odd books last year, I want to say it was like 104 when I finally got down and added everything into Goodreads, 41 of those were in the Michael Conley extended universe, and I don't know how to pick favorites in there. I'm truly sorry. Like, there were definitely some bangers, like Nine Dragons is immediately coming to front of mind, and it's immediately coming to front of mind. But then there were also some other ones in there, maybe like, so The Lincoln Lawyer had a good run, but some of that I know is goodwill from the Netflix adaptation, but even the ones that weren't adapted were still good. So like, how do I pick and choose? So he's just gonna get honorable mention up in that list somewhere, and that leaves 60 other books. And of those 60, maybe only 2 I can think off the top of my head immediately. Ass, like, should never be read. What are we doing? An insult to literature. So that list is coming. It is there. But on what I read in that I read last year, I listened to This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead, because I had gotten an arc for This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead after I'd come on the internet and publicly told y'all that me and the good Dr. Professor Winstead were breaking up, because I had read everything they'd written and a lot of it was just mediocre slop. So like, what are we doing here? And then I read This Book Will Bury Me, and that book was excellent. It was excellent. And I finished it, and then I got on the internet, and the internet was telling me that, oh, she's a horrible person. She took those college kids in Idaho and she made some random slop ass book. I dabble in true crime. I'm aware that those people were murdered. I did not get that from That Book Will Bury Me. Were there similarities? Is there overlap? I see the similarities. I see the overlap. I can understand why somebody be like, what is this? But to actually engage and read that book, it was good. It was good. She did what she needed to do. And so after this book will bury me, I was like, maybe there's a chance. Maybe something a switch has been flipped in The Good Doctor Professor, and I cannot break up with them. And so I did reach out and I asked for an arc of the Future Saints, and I got it. And also, it didn't help that the Future Saints is quintessentially a Monty book. It's a book about the music industry. How could we be on the It's Monty Price YouTube channel and not read a book about the music industry? It just couldn't happen. It couldn't happen. It would never happen. If there's a book about the music industry, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read. It's just, it is what it is. And so I have read the first 5%, which is literally just the first chapter, where we have Theo, who's going to be the band's new manager. He has shown up to see what's happening there because his role at the record company that they're signed to, the record label they're signed to, is to kind of like trim the fat. Like when a band starts going downhill, they call in Theo. Theo's like, okay, great. He rides out the rest of the contract and he gets them out of there. Because it seems as though they owe the record company like one more album, and then they're gonna go, and he's gonna get a promotion out of it. But clearly, at the end of that chapter, he's seeing them perform in concert at this little dive bar, and so he's seeing them there, and it's kind of a shit show. But then the final song is like so good. He's like, oh, maybe there's some magic we can recapture here. Maybe this won't be all horrendous. And so it's told in dual perspective, at least, because the second chapter was from somebody in the band. I want to say her name is Hannah. And so I'm excited to read it, but I don't have any thoughts on it because I've literally read the first chapter. So that was that. I have started Fetal Rivalry, and I think that's going to be what carries us through this week. But besties, in December, we're trying to give that little Crave show all the grace in the world. I don't think I have seen such a low budget production in years. I don't know what happens up there in Canada. I don't know what Crave got going on, because the only thing I know Crave for is Canada's Drag Race. And I have not watched Canada's Drag Race since season 1. So season 1, if anything, will be rough. But it seems to me, just based on, well, I guess I also watched Canada versus the World season 3, the one that Lemon won. So when Lemon came back and Lemon won, I watched that, and that was also not really giving the highest budget. Like, I'm sorry. So I don't know what Crave's budget is for their programming, but this, between Drag Race Canada and this little show over here, it seems to be non-existent. It seems that they have zero funds for anybody, and I think it's crazy because Jacob Tierney has already been doing the interview rounds, telling people not to expect a bigger budget for season 2. Like, why would they get a bigger budget? Like, maybe, you know, like Hudson and Connor will get paid a little bit more, and maybe some of the other cast members will get paid a little bit more. But also, I thought this was actually crazy. I know that Francois is sort of like the name talent attached to this, but when I was watching the credits for episode 1 and his name popped up first, I was like, that's actually crazy. You were in like 2 scenes, sir. Like, I get it, but you are not the star of the show. This is not the Hunter show. Like, anyway, but in December, trying to give the show all of the grace in the world, but it is so low budget, and some of it's bad, like actively bad. I don't think that premiere episode, the pilot episode, is really all that good. I don't think it's that good. I think that if I hadn't read that book, I don't want to say that I'd be lost, because I do, again, I have eyes to see and ears to listen. And so between what was happening on screen and the subtitles, I was able to piece it together. But I was like, this is, and again, like, it is pretty much the book. Like, I see the vision. I understand why girlies were like, this is so good. But I also, this is controversial. And maybe it's not that controversial, because also at the same time that this is happening, the people on TikTok are tearing that little Percy Jackson show to shreds again. It's that time of year. I do firmly believe that adaptation should change with the medium, and so I think it would have been okay to change it a little bit. And maybe this is the real issue that I have with the show. Maybe the real issue is that I don't believe that Hudson Williams and what's his name, Connor Story, they don't look like children, and they meet as children. Like, they are 17, they turn 18 at the draft, and those two sitting there outside that little hockey arena in some nondescript, actually, I would probably not be surprised if that alleyway was just the exterior of a building that they have used several times over because the alleyway looked cheap. The gym that they were working out in looked like a fucking shoebox. It didn't even look like a hotel gym. I've seen my little rinky-dink apartment complex that I paid $12 to live at got a better gym setup than they got at that little, whatever that was. And that's probably from the hotel that they're keeping the cast. Like, everything about this show was just so fucking low budget. I saw somebody on TikTok talking about the press conference scene and how, like, it's so great that they worked within their budget. Like, you could really see, like, they didn't have, the money for the extras to play the reporters, so you get, like, the questions piped in, you get to focus on these two people. But in some respects, like, shout out to, I know I'm just calling these people ugly and old, but, like, I guess shout out to them because they are asked to carry a lot of this, especially in that first episode. They're asked to, like, really sell a lot really quickly, and for the most part, I guess they deliver, but not something that I'm particularly enjoying. Like, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen on television, but it is just like, what is happening here? Although Hudson's mother, listen, I don't know why Hudson's mother in this TV show is giving momager. I did not get that. Maybe in the long game, that's some information that we get, and so they're like, oh, we can just use that here. I don't recall her being the momager. I don't, like, when we were sitting at lunch and she was like, fuck him up the butt, I was like, what 50-year-old? I mean, I guess so. Again, it was the mid 2000s, 2000, I guess 10 in that scene, maybe 2008, 9, somewhere. And it's, the beginning of the timeline. But I'm just like, so, like, the casual, weird, homophobic comments, okay. But, like, who sits at family lunch and says, fuck him up the butt? I don't like him. Fuck him up the butt. Like, also, for the amount of time that y'all were like, ooh, he folds his clothes every time. In the first episode, I see this man get dicked down I guess there's exchanging blowjobs, which are also some of the worst film blowjobs I'd ever seen. Anyway, so they're sucking each other off in all these, various hotel rooms. And he don't really be holding his clothes the way that y'all would make somebody believe that he's folding his clothes like, oh, look at the tism. Besties, maybe he does. And maybe Rachel Reed did come out in the interview and say that he does have the autism. But that man was also perfectly fine just throwing his clothes wherever he needed to throw his clothes and get on with it. Like, so again, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. And maybe if the girlies hadn't acted as though this was the greatest thing since sliced bread, I could get on with it. Although I guess if this is what you guys were reading, or not reading, if this is what you guys were watching to escape the, we're killing random civilians in the Caribbean, I could give you a pass. Because I was out here reading about a raggedy ass cop doing raggedy ass cop shit. And if someone were to read that and be like, Monty, this is what you were married. Like, if in 2026, y'all went through and started reading some Michael Connelly, and you came back to me and you were like, this is what you were spending your last year doing, this was bringing you joy and satisfaction, I would have to raise my hands and go, let he who without sin cast the first stone. Because I'm not going to sit here and act as though that what Michael Connelly was out here doing was God's gift to creative storytelling. But it was compelling. It was interesting. I was invested. I was there for it. At least until we got to all of the romance in that series is awful. There ain't not one good relationship in there. Not in any of the series that he got going on. So, but still, like, I understand from that level, but on another level, I'm just like, this is some really bad television, besties. Like, I'm sorry, not enough, like, there's not enough ass in the world. There ain't enough bubble booties in the world to make me watch that show and come back to you guys and be like, this is top tier storytelling. And I think part of me, what do I want to say about this? I think that there was already a scene in the first episode where Shane Hollander was asked about being, Asian in the hockey league. And he's like, I just don't think about that. I don't think about being Asian at all. It's not important to me. It's important to me to go out there and play and win games. And, like, I understand that from a logical level, from a up here level, because, I do watch the college sports. I do be watching the NFL. And I be seeing these people out here saying some stupid ass shit. So, an athlete to tell me that I'm an athlete before I'm a person of color is not new to Monty, but I don't like it. I'm not, I don't relate to that little piece of it. And I don't even know if I believe that the character is actually saying that they mean that. And also, just as many athletes are out here saying that's dumb shit, there are other athletes out here who are not saying that dumb shit and understand the role and the position that they have. And it's just so crazy to me that Shane Hollander was in that very first episode like, yeah, it's on board to me, it doesn't matter. And then also Shane Hollander is a little bit strange in the writing of this show, where in some ways it seems that he understands the danger that Ilya faced hooking up with his... Actually, I don't even know if Shane does. Maybe that's me being too generous. But the idea that Shane was... When they're talking about him going back to Russia and being excited, he's like, oh, you must be excited to be around family and this, that, and the third. And it's like, if Ilya's family knew, he would definitely wind up in like a torture prison. Like, so Shane is a weird character in both the TV show and in the book. And I was hoping that the TV show is going to be a little bit better. And maybe it will be. I watched an episode and maybe a half because it was late and I was like, it's not good enough for me to stay up over. It definitely ain't good for y'all to be foaming at the mouth week to week. Now, I do like a weekly TV drop. Don't get it twisted. I don't think everything needs to be binged. I think that I'm going to binge it. But I think that in terms of actually building an audience and making sustainable television needs to be weekly. We need more than 6 episodes, but it needs to be weekly. So don't get it twisted, even though I'm out here binging the show. I am in full support of weekly releases. I just know that I'm going to get behind. And so one way or another, whether I'm watching it week to week and I have to binge a couple of weeks, I am supportive of that. I like television where the television is intended to be viewed, and that is week to week. It is not meant to be viewed when I'm viewing it. But still, for y'all to be foaming at the mouth, we'll see. Besties, this is, again, it is not my finest hour, but the sun is going down, and when I get home, I'm gonna cook my dinner and not want to sit in front of a camera, because last night when I got home, I really should have updated, and then I didn't, so that's the excuse that I'm going with for why I did not read today. But yesterday, Saturday, was a really good reading day. So the first time I spoke to you, when it was like overcast and sad outside, I had told you that my plan was to start at A is for Alibi by Sue Grafton, and that I had kind of picked up the Future Saints from Book of the Month. That was actually my January pick this month, but I had the arc before then. I've now listened to about 25%. I had Siri reading it to me when I was at the hotel yesterday, just because I needed a background noise. I didn't know what I wanted, because I had finished A's for Alibi earlier. We'll talk about that in a second. And I knew I didn't want to jump into B is for Burglar, but I did check it out. But I needed to talk to you guys before I did that, so I didn't get them like confused. And so I was like, you know what? I used to have, Siri read to me. Let me do that again. Let me just open up the Kindle app, have Siri read me the book, and we'll have a good time. Did I have a good time? I don't know. The Future Saints, as I told you, we are following Hannah. She is the front woman of the Future Saints, and she is like really going through it in a way that I don't know is like necessarily the most fun to read about. Like, her perspective really, I don't say it bothers me, but it definitely is not fun. It's just not fun. It is not fun whatsoever under any stretch of the imagination. So she is the front woman of this little band that she put together when she was still in high school, and the other 2 members were friends. Like, it's the same people essentially. The only problem is that a year ago their manager died, and their manager also happened to be Hannah's little sister. And even before she died, she already had this like enormous weight on her shoulders, that she felt that she had kind of ruined her little sister's life. I don't know if she felt that way, but she knew that her parents felt that way. And so she was carrying that, and then her little sister died. And so it's like, oh, my little sister was supposed to be like a doctor and successful, and like she was in the gifted program, and she just followed me around. And then she became my manager, and we haven't really blown up. We haven't gone anywhere. And now she's dead. Like, it's a lot of that. And she's also hallucinating her dead sister. And it's the hallucination of the dead sister that is kind of like really it's not working for me. And it's the hallucination of the dead sister. It's all this weight, the guilty, I'm trying to ruin my life and everyone around me because, grief. And then the romance. And I will say that while Ashley Winstead's thriller mystery books were kind of questionable. Like, between The Last Housewife and In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, some of the worst books ever written. Her two romances, Fool Me Once and The Boyfriend Candidate, I think that was the second one, right? Those are actual slop. Like, the mystery thrillers are like, in some world I can kind of understand why somebody liked this. And again, I also liked This Book Will Bury Me. This Book Will Bury Me continues to be untouched. Like, that is just some shit that she ain't never gonna get back to. Like, that was one of a kind. I guess the one book she wrote when she was actually grieving, that's the banker. Who would have known? Anyway, this book is, and then that little sad vampire book that was a meditation on Twilight. No, thank you. Like, between that book and The Great Circle, I don't need any more literary Twilight examinations. Not in my lifetime. I'm good. So this book, it's not, the sauce isn't hitting. And then we also have Theo's chapters where he is like trying to be unbothered, trying to get the band together, trying to understand like what the dynamic is. Like, he is the fish out of water. He's the new entity in the group. And he's also trying to get promotion, but he and Hannah are having this like connection, and there's like some flirtation kind of vibes. It's just not working. What I think that this most compares to be honest with you, is another January Book of the Month selection from last year, The Favorites by Lane Fargo. Also a person known for writing like kind of a thriller, like history with these like thriller mysteries, sort of upmarket commercial fiction spaces. And I feel like The Favorites worked in a way that The Future Saints is not working. I think that there's actually a connection between these two books. They're in conversation might be a little much. You could read them in conversation with one another in terms of what I think that both books are setting out to do. But I just think that The Favorites by a mile is just better. It's better in every conceivable way. And again, Ashley Winstead continues to show me why I did not fuck with The Good Doctor Professor in the first place. And it also does not help that I read Aid for Alibi. Aid for Alibi is crazy. I feel is setting the bar too high, because if anything, it's not the same. It's not the same at all, to be honest with you. But it does remind me personally of like sitting down to watch an episode of like Murder, She Wrote. Like, it's sort of cozy. We're following this woman. She's nowhere near as old. I think her name is Kinsey. Something. Anyway, she's not nearly as old as Jessica Fletcher is. And the crimes are not necessarily even as cozy, unserious as the crimes. Although I think Jessica Fletcher was investigating like actual murders. It's nothing, again, like totally it's not the same, but it's just the feeling I got while reading it was that. The writing was very direct. It was, if anything, the narrator kind of saved it. And maybe that's kind of why I was getting Jessica Fletcher vibes, because the narrator, I think, is definitely older than the character is supposed to be. But it worked for the book's advantage. Because if anybody else had narrated this, I don't know if it would have felt the same, or if I would have enjoyed it as much as I did, even though it's kind of messy. And so we are following this woman, and she is hired by this lady who has just got out of prison. She is on probation, and she was in prison for murdering her husband. But she has all along, pled that she didn't do it, but she wants to find the person who actually killed her husband. Her husband was killed by oleander. It was crushed up into his medication. He took it, he overdosed. Well, he didn't overdose, anyway, because it had been swapped out, he died. And so she went to prison. He's like, I didn't do this, find the person who did it. And she was like, okay, let's do it. It's a little bit hard though, because all they had to have access to was the medication one time. They only swapped out one pill, and that could have happened anytime. So like somebody who says, oh, I was in Argentina on that day. Nobody says they're in Argentina, but let's just say for, example, it doesn't matter if they're Argentina on, December the 12th when the person died, because they could have put the medication in there on like October 2nd, and they just didn't get to the oleander pill until December. And for the most part, I don't really think, we do spend a lot of time like actually investigating like some potential leads and following up, but a lot of this first book, I think, is sort of giving us the lay of the land in this made up city that she's in Southern, I guess it is in Southern California, but it's definitely giving like Santa Barbara vibes. It was almost like, it was if Jessica Fletcher met Psych. overall, it was a fine story. At the beginning of the book, we knew that she was going to kill somebody. And so by the end of the book, when she killed who the real killer was, I was kind of like, okay. But it also meant the book was like, it was over. Like, it was, like, we killed that man, and then you, like, rolled the credits real quick. And so I don't really know if I liked that part of it, because we had spent so much time, and I was just like, it also felt like the kind of story that you were supposed to be able to put together on your own. And I don't know if I could. Like, I don't know. Maybe Michael Connelly spoon feeds the girls, and so I was really getting cocky, or, you know, I just gotten onto his particular pattern of, like, laying out information so I could guess who was up to shit over there. And so I've been feeling myself a little bit too much, thinking I was gonna get the A's for alibi murderer. And so when we got to the murder, I was like, oh, okay. And then when she was, this was so unserious. She was, like, running for miles down the beach. And I was like, I guess she did go for a couple of runs over the course of the book. So I guess we wouldn't have gone on those runs if at the end in the third act, she wasn't going to be running for her life. But she was running for her life along the beach for miles, besties. It had to be miles. She ran from one beach to the next beach, and she was scrambling up cliffs. It was a lot. She was like, ooh, I can feel it in my bones. I could feel it. And that's when she had to kill the man, because then she eventually ran out of beach to run. And there he was, and there she was, and he had a gun, and she had a gun, and it was a battle of the guns. And again, overall, it was fine. And like I said, I did check out B is for burglar, but I was just like, I don't know. I do think that it was smart of me to not buy these at the local library bookstore, at the library bookstore, and I saw them, even though it's a great price, and they are, you know, it was all of them. I don't know. I think I might get through a couple letters, but I don't know if I'm going to read all, like, I think there's, 23, 24 of them, because she passed away before she could finish. And so I don't know if I'm going to get the entire alphabet, or as many of the alphabet as she did, but I'm going to read a couple of them. They're nice little fun times, at least for now. Good evening, besties. This is actually around the same time as it was yesterday when I came to talk to you. And I'm once again in my car. Eventually we are going to be at my desk. Eventually, we are not going to... Also, ignore this. I'm paranoid every time I get in the car with my conditioner, like, still a little bit wet. I'm going to fuck up the seat, so just ignore that. I did not go into B is for burglar, although I was a little tempted. But what I did decide to do, as I was looking at my hold shelf on Libby, and I think I am trying to be better. I'm trying to, I'm not trying to be better. I am trying to reconcile this, like, I'm only listening to audiobooks phenomenon, because even though, as I look back at the end of last year, like the last little part of the year, I was checking in. So from October through Vlogmas, I was reading and filming and editing a video literally every single day. So literally in October and November, that was like every day. And then December, I did kind of fuck up a little bit more than I did October and November. But we're talking like 80 some odd days of straight video production for Monty. And so I do think that that really did help solidify not a reading routine, because I still don't have like a designated time, but it definitely, for sure, and 2025 overall really cemented the fact that if I'm not listening to the book, I'm probably not reading that book. And part of me is still trying to figure out how I feel about that. Not because I don't think that audiobooks aren't reading, because I'm 30, you guys. Like, I'm a 30-year-old man. I have reading comprehension skills. I can read fluently. Like, so I can get the information that I can get in whatever medium. Like, I'm not a 10-year-old who's learning to read for the first time. Maybe if I was still in grade school, I would be concerned that I was only ingesting audiobooks. But I do think that there probably is a little bit something. And I also think that if I was only listening to these things passively, but it's really embarrassing the number of times I'll be listening to an audiobook and I gotta stop it. I gotta stop what the narrator is saying. And me and my little inner thoughts, we be going back and forth. So it's not even that I'm not even engaging with the audiobooks that some people, I think that's also the thing that people maybe think that, or maybe they don't do that, but I do. Me and the audiobooks, we having full-on conversations, and they're like, okay, bitch, we got back to the story now. But it's not even that I'm not engaging with the text the same way that I do if I'm reading it physically or on an ebook. I don't know, like, maybe this is like outside shit that has nothing to do with anything, but it does have me feeling some kind of way. And so maybe this year, 2026, I will get back to not listening to everything. We'll see though. We'll see. I did not keep a spreadsheet last year. I just could not be bothered. I was not super invested. I really thought that. Did I think I was really done? I don't think so. I don't know. What, we're talking like at least 120 videos last year. I don't know, you make 120 videos and you think you're done. I don't think that's the case. But I didn't think I needed a spreadsheet. I did go back to Mr. Brock. I got my spreadsheet for this year. So I'm gonna break it down. I'll have like a more concrete understanding of what my physical reading and audiobook listening looks like. I will say that sometimes I do a little bit in conjunction. Like sometimes I will start an arc on the, on my Kindle, and then I'll go over to the audiobook copy. I did that with Holiday Ever After. I read a little bit. I want to say I read like maybe 4. I know I for sure read the first 4 chapters, and then I switched to the audiobook. And then I think I read like a couple more chapters, and then I went back to the audiobook. So maybe I read 10% of that book with my eyeballs, but when I log it, I would just log the audio because I did that for the majority of the time. And again, I don't think there's one way that's worse or better, and I do think this mostly stems from the fact that my NetGalley score is not out of control. I am sitting at 70% after I went through on, I think it was actually January 2nd. I went through my Goodreads and I finally typed some half-assed reviews. And so I was able to leave some reviews on NetGalley and link the video where I talked about those books. So I am back up to a 70%, which isn't horrible. It's better than I thought it was going to be honest with everybody. But there are still, I got like 3 pages of arcs sitting there on NetGalley that I got to get to at some point. And a lot of those are out now. Like a lot of it is backlist, not really a lot of frontlist titles. And so when I find myself in that situation, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna listen to it now. But if I just read the fucking EPUB that I asked them to give me, we could avoid some of this. And so I think that's kind of where a lot of the guilt that I feel really comes from, is from having asked for these things and then I'm not really going through with it. So we'll see if that is the true case. But going back to what this point was originally supposed to be about, I have started listening to The Breakup List by Adib khorram, because this is one of those aforementioned NetGalley titles that I asked for and haven't picked it up yet. This is the story of Jackson. Jackson is a theater child. He's a theater kid, and he has a crush on Liam. Liam is his best friend Bodhi. They're both on the swim team, so Bodhi and Liam are on the swim team together, and Liam decides he's going to audition for the fall musicale, and he gets a part in the fall musicale. But things are a little bit complicated when Liam and Jackson's sister Jasmine start dating, although it really feels like Jackson pushed Liam onto Jasmine, even though Jasmine had a crush. Because the other thing you need to know is that Jackson is deaf, and this is definitely in the narrative. Like sometimes you'll be, I'm listening, but sometimes you'll be, in the middle of a scene and you'll be in the middle of a conversation, and like he won't be fully locked into what the man is saying or what the character is saying, and you just be like something, and it's like super frustrating for me. But I understand it because it is I think it's first person narration, like it has to be based on that. And then I will say the somethings and the strikeout correction, actually I mean this, are both annoying. I don't think it'd be as annoying in the visual medium if I was just reading this physically or on my Kindle, but in the audio medium it is kind of like, okay, I get it, we're making corrections here, and there really isn't probably a better way to note the strikeout in the text that exists. And there's probably not even a better way to denote the fact that he didn't pick up on something because he wasn't paying attention or he couldn't hear properly than the something. But it's like, I'm pretty sure that one of those somethings, because it doesn't always ask for like clarification after that. Like something's like, I'm just gonna give context clues. But I'm pretty sure that one of the somethings, it was Jackson being like, I'm gonna go out with you, or Liam being, I'm gonna go out with you, and Jackson interpreting that as, I'm gonna go out with your sister. So a lot of this is a sort of like, obviously they're gonna get together. I mean, it is a YA book. So it's not necessarily even a romance. It's just more of a contemporary. But I do believe that Liam and Jackson are going to be together. And so it's kind of like, we're taking your sister's boyfriend. That's crazy. But this is also from the same man that, I don't know how I just found this out. Because am I the world's biggest Adib khorram fan? I don't think so. I do attempt to stay up to date on his releases. And so this is kind of a book that came out before the last book I read from him, It Has to Be Him, which was excellent. Adib's adult work is so fucking good, besties. If you're not reading it, go pick it up. Yeah, just go do that shit. Like, the YA after the Darius books has been kind of hit or miss. Like, what was the first book? Kiss and Tell. He had like a white protagonist in that one with a Iranian Persian love interest. That one was not as good. But, and even this one is not necessarily even as good as the Darius books. So they're a little bit hit and miss, but the adult romances have been excellent. Excellent. So I'll Have What He's Having, so good. That is the story of a man who gets mistaken as a food critic and he falls in love with a sommelier. So good. And then the last book I read from him, It Has to Be Him, is about a man who gets broken up with, goes on a trip to Italy to find himself, and winds up dating somebody he knew in high school who was there. Into like a little single, I guess he's technically a single dad, but his wife is also there. I say what, ex-wife. His ex-wife is in the picture. The child is in the, it's a fun little time. It's a fun little Italian romp. Go read it. But this book, I'm just like, I don't know if we're doing this. Oh, all that is to say that his next book is called 6 Letters, 1 Word. And the title is very clearly faggot. Like, and I understand that it's a YA book, so we cannot call the book faggot and put it in the YA section. But I do think it's a little bold. It's a very, the cover is definitely bold, because only letter on the cover is a bunch of F's. It's a little bit ugly, not gonna lie. But Adib Khorram, you bold for that one. You definitely bold. So I will always clock in for an Adib book. Because even when it's not the best, like Kiss and Tell is not the best for me. Don't love it nearly as much as the other work. I do think he has a real grasp on a good storyteller. Like Michael Connelly. Michael Connelly is not necessarily the world's best writer. And I will say that Adib Khorram is definitely a better writer than Michael Connelly. But they're both good storytellers. And so, again, like I was saying during Vlogmas when I was complaining about the love lyric, all of the good books that I read, we really hit the ground running immediately. So by the 11% mark, we had already we were seeing auditions for this fall musical. We were getting interactions between these two men. We're getting interactions between Liam and Jackson. We're seeing Jackson and his little friend group that he has. The ways that Jackson feels a little bit isolated from the rest of his friend group. What really spurs him on. And we were hitting the ground running. We weren't wasting time trying to get to the setup. The setup had already happened. We were in it. We were going through it. And I think that that's ultimately why, even though I'm like, damn, your sister, like, you gonna snack your sister's boyfriend? That's crazy work. But I think by the end of it, I will be fully on board and I will be entertained the entire time. So far, I can recommend that you pick up The Breakup List if you're in the market for YA fiction. Me in this raggedy ass hat. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, but it is what it is. I can't even take the hat off because it'll look worse. So here we are once again. Anyway, yeah, I didn't even realize I still had my gimbal in the car, or I guess I could have updated you guys. Could I have? Not really, because I finished this book at like 10 o'clock last night. So I finished The Breakup List by Adib Khorram, and I guess I could have done a pre-work before I walked into the restaurant update. Probably could have done that. But here's the issue. Is it really an issue that I have with this book? I really enjoyed it. I really liked Jackson and Liam and the relationship that they had. I enjoyed Liam and Jackson, but the third act conflict was Liam and Jackson have been sneaking around because eventually Jackson does break up with Jasmine. Liam breaks up with Jasmine, who is Jackson's sister. Making sure I get everybody's name right there. Because he really wanted to date Jackson, but he just thought that Jackson was pushing him to date Jasmine. And so they went on a couple of dates. I think they were dating for like 3 months, to be honest with you. I think that's what it wound up being. And then they were like, yeah, no, thank you, actually. And so between the time of their breaking up, so around like the beginning of like winter break through the spring semester, they were kind of messing around with one another. And then over spring break, Liam had been giving Jackson some swim lessons, and they were canoodling at the pool, and Jasmine was there. And she found out that her brother had been lying to her. And so it kind of blew up from there. And the blow up, I thought, was a teensy bit disproportionate. Now, if you were related to somebody and they started dating this man who had dumped you, I can understand feeling very hurt and betrayed by that. particularly when you are a child. So like these are teenage high school emotions that we're talking about. And so I fully understand why she had the little crash out that she did. But it's important to know that the book is called The Breakup List because Jackson writes these lists of his sister's boyfriends or just like people in his life, like their most negative qualities when he's very upset with them. Like these are very clearly not ever meant to be seen by people. They're not meant to be published. They're just supposed to help his sister remember why she broke up with these raggedy ass men that she was dating, right? Cut to after the canoodling, first day back at school, first day back after spring break, and what are taped up all over the hallways but these lists talking about how raggedy these people are. And one of the lists is for Liam. And Liam knew about these lists. He knew that this was a way that Jackson vented and like all this, that, and the third. But Jackson has told him that, yeah, we didn't make a list for you, which was a lie that was a little bit silly. But the way that Liam crashed out over this, I thought was kind of crazy. Like, and again, like, these are all things that Liam, because at first Liam and Jackson were talking about these lists because when he found out about the lists originally, Liam was still dating Jasmine. So he's like, oh, so when I break up with your sister, like, you're going to make one of these for me. And so they went back and forth talking about the things that they would put on this list. And obviously none of these things were true. And so with the fact for Liam to crash out, it was like, listen, I understand that you are also a high schooler going with high school emotions, but let's be so for real. Let's be so for, like, for just 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. Let's use our brains here and be serious. But what really killed me is some of these lists were not about the boyfriends. They were lists designed to like make Jackson look like a horrible person. And so he gets kicked out of the spring play. He is no longer going to be able to stage manage, which is kind of crazy because that's like literally the only thing this man has been doing his entire, like the entire book, is lusting over Liam and running the drama department. And there was a moment in this scene. I think the gayest thing about this book is the relationship that Jackson and this drama teacher have. And it's not even the fact that she's the drama teacher, like any teacher would have sufficed he could have had this relationship with, but this idea that Jackson had, that he was so pivotal to the success of this teacher being good at her job and running the department, yeah, that was the gayest thing about this book. The queerest, gayest thing ever put pen to paper. And again, it has nothing to do with it being the drama teacher. This could have been the math man, could have been a history person, could have been an English person. Like literally any teacher and this student have this relationship where he was like executive assistant. Gayest thing about the book. And so when he gets like completely cut off from all of his friends and family, and it's just so crazy, so crazy. But the craziest thing about all of this is the reconciliation comes at the spring play. I mean, I think he and Jasmine kind of reconcile a little bit before this, like they have their own private conversation. But then it's the night of the spring play, and I guess he and the drama teacher had also reconciled because, again, she had kicked him out of the department. She was like, no, you are not going to be stage managing shit for us. But also, she'd been treating this man, like, so bad. Like, every 3 seconds, she was, like, abandoning him to, like, go talk to somebody else. Like, setting up appointments with him to then cancel. And it's just like, I understand you are a teacher, you got a million one things going on in your life, but, like, if you're helping people get their college applications together, surely you can help him get his college application together. Like, sure, like, you told him you're gonna, like, let's be a little consistent. Maybe, you know, it's just a thought and idea. You could do it. Anyway, so that's happening, and the resolution comes where the supporting actor in the play has a code brown. They are unable to go on. They are sick due to an allergic reaction they are having. And so he has to swoop in and save the day. And in swooping in and saving the day, he then goes off script. I had to skip forward in the audiobook. I couldn't listen to it, besties. He, in the middle of the play, where they're doing, I think, a 12th night, maybe. In the middle of 12th night, he goes off script and starts apologizing to Liam on stage. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So did I read the entire book? I guess not, besties. Technically, I didn't do it. But it was just so painful. I said, I can't listen to this speech. Because the speech wasn't even good. The speech wasn't even good. And both of y'all was in the wrong. And so it's just like, you are embarrassing yourself for what? What do you gain from doing this? Like, this is not a big romantic gesture. This is just, like, cover your eyes and look away. But it all works out in the end. And the end of the book, all happy and together. Because it is kind of a romance, even though it's a YA book. So, in my head, most YA romances are really just contemporaries. But this I get it. It really did. And maybe these new age YA books are a little bit different. Admittedly, back in the day, they were just contemporaries. This one really is focusing on the relationship between Liam and Jackson in the similar vein to what adult romances do. So I guess that it is what it is. And there really isn't much of a B storyline here. Although the other thing is, like, Jackson is a deaf main character, and the fact that nobody in his family signed to him is so crazy to me. And I understand that that is sort of normal for a lot of children who are deaf, who parents are not deaf. But it was just like, damn, like, and then for his sister to be like, oh, I knew he wanted to fuck you because he was learning sign language. And it's just like, I think that anybody who is in close community with a deaf person would probably pick up at least some signs. Like, I don't think it was that, and it wasn't even just Jackson who was deaf, but Liam was also friends with Bodie. I'm calling him Bodie, but I don't think that was actually his name. I don't think that was actually his name. Maybe it was Bowie, because I was listening at a faster pace. I was hearing Bodie, but either way, Bowie and his parents are. I think Bowie might actually be hearing, but he has deaf parents. I don't remember how that played out, but I do know that Jackson learned to sign from Bowie's parents because they're also black. So he learned like BSL, and he started talking to other deaf people, and they're like, "Oh, you got an accent. You be sounding weird." So I guess that was a little bit of representation there. But either way, like, it wasn't even like Jackson was the only deaf person in Liam's life. There were other people who also signed around him, and it made sense for him to know how to sign. Like, so when his sister was like, "Oh yeah, I should have known he wanted to fuck you because he was learning sign language for you," and Jackson was like, "Well, you're my literal fucking sister, so maybe you could fucking sign too, bitch." Like, I was so happy. I was so happy when Jackson was a little bit shady, because it was so fucking weird to me that, like, it was just weird. Like, it would be one thing if you're like a family where like your parents speak a language and you don't speak it, but you can understand what they're saying. But it's like you don't even understand the signs that he be so fucking weird. The whole family was weird, to be honest with you. His little dad and stepmommy, they were all weird. His mom wasn't really in the story that much, but she was all like, everybody in the book is weird. Everybody in the book is weird. Not bad, but just like, get it together, besties. Get it together. Overall, it's definitely not my favorite Adib khorram. Am I really gonna rush out to read One Word, Six Letters? I don't know. That one does seem to be more straightforward, contemporary than this one, which is a romance. And of the ones that I've read, the romance ones from him have not been the strongest. Because Darius the Great and then Darius is the Great is not okay, or Darius is not okay. I forget the exact wording of that. The Darius books definitely lean more contemporary. Although the sequel does give us a love triangle type situation that is, and I guess technically the first book also gives us a romance as well. But still, like, those I think lean more. And then the Breakup List and Kiss and Tell are more overt romances, and maybe that's why they didn't work out for me. But I really do enjoy the adult romances. So there is kind of a dichotomy there. Like, what's going on? What's going on with me? But that's really all I have to say. I've not watched any more Feuded Rivalry. I've not started the next grafton book. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. This little update here. I'll see you guys soon with my actual closing out, seeing how things go. And that's what I got for you.
Hello, besties. There's been a series of card clips, and I think I've worn a hat in like literally all of them, which is why we got it on right now. Also, my hair, even without the hat, is a mess because it was in a hat all day at work. I would like to say shout out to the Unbrush people. It was just me and my collection of pics and a nice little an old-fashioned boar bristle against the world, and it was working out just fine. One moment, it's working out just fine. But I did invest in an Unbrush, and I bought it, and it looks like a play toy. This shit does not look like it is worth $18. It's worth $18, bestie. It is worth the $18. So yeah, also shout out to Sacred. Shout out to that little Shake It shampoo. I bought that it's probably going on 2 months ago now. And it's been my go-to shampoo. Although the girlies are saying to be careful. I have to look into something about protein buildup. I don't know what that means. But I've been using it for about a month now, like about 2 months ago. It's the real deal. It's the real deal. So that's what's happening with my hair. That's what's been going on there with that journey. The last time, also, here's the thing. Editing Monty is probably done his best, his true hardest to make this something that is actually watchable and will make sense. That might mean having to delete things where I was promising things. At some point, I think I promised like a superlative video that didn't happen. And honestly, I'm not invested in making it happen. I think I said that it was going to happen also during Vlogmas. At this point, we're going into the second week of January. I just don't care about that content, to be honest with you. And in 2026, if I'm going to make public facing content, I'm going to have to make content that I care about. And retrospective, here's my top 10 of the year, is just not something I'm invested in. And it's not to say that I read really bad books, because I did. And it's not to say that I read some really great books, because I did. But I felt like, I talked about those. They got the video where that happened. And those are just going to exist in that space and in that time. And also, I am lazy. Like, it's the same reason I haven't come here to wrap this up. And maybe haven't even checked in as much as I should have. And most of the clips you saw were car clips. And it's why I don't do B-roll. Like, I want to talk about the books. Also, we're not also going to talk about the books. We're also going to do some football discussion, because I am nothing if but like an armchair quarterback man. So I guess it's not all about the books. It's not. We have to make that disclaimer. But I'm just going to talk about the things I need to talk about, and we're just going to get through it. I did finish another book. So for this video, I think I read 3 books. I read A is for Alibi by Sue Grafton, which was a fun little time. It wasn't as fun a time as I wanted, but it was a fun little time. And I did see the box still there at the library the last time I was there. I went to the library a couple days ago, which reminds me, I still have a trunk full of library books. I should probably grab those from my trunk now that it's not inclement weather. But I did see the box. I might buy them. I don't know. But I read A's for Alibi with you guys, and then I read The Breakup List, which was a fun time. And I told you that I had started The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead, and you're getting my final thoughts, so I can give this video over to the lovely people at Atria. This is an Atria book, I believe. Yes, because I did have an arc, and so even though I read a finished copy from Book of the Month, I did pay for this. Also, this was paid. I think I paid for this one at some point last year, to be honest with you, because I just had my Book of the Month on pause because I realized I got charged for one. And then I was like, oh, let me pause it. So it was like paused all of last year. I think this year I'm going to attempt to maybe get a Book of the Month every month. And we'll talk about that in a public that might be the one public video you guys can get from me, is me talking about my Book of the Month selections, because I'm usually pretty good about reading them. I do have one from last year. I got this, and then the people on Patreon told me that the book was bad. And so I was like, oh, it was bad, and that's when I paused it. But I bought Liquid last year, a love story by Mariam Rahmani. It's dusty. You can tell I really cared about this book. But yeah, I heard that it was bad. Oh, there's dust on the back too. The pages aren't dusty, thankfully. But yeah, I got this, and the girlies told me that it was bad. And so I just never actually read it. But maybe this will happen in February. It actually won't happen in February, because February is just for Black people. Sorry, but it could happen in March. I could do another video like I did in 2023, where I know I at least did a wrap up in March where I just read from female authors, and this person in the back looks female, and they're using female pronouns, and they're not telling me that they're not female. So I'm going to assume the gender here. And so maybe this will happen in March alongside the other thing that I have read. But let's talk The Future Saints, and then I'll wrap it up and I'll go into my little football talk, so you guys can just leave out and I won't have to bore you. The Future Saints, I think in the cover copy, does it say? It doesn't say it in the cover copy, which is probably for the best. But I want to say, at least on Goodreads or maybe in a marketing email or on the NetGalley widget, this has been compared to Daisy Jones, which I kind of understand, because this is a story about a band, and there is a female lead singer of the band, and there's some tension in the band, and there is something of a love something. Now, in Daisy Jones, which I guess is actually one of the few Taylor Jenkins that I don't own, but I did like. I say don't own, like that means I also like that one. It was also the first Daisy Jones, the first Jenkins read that I did like, because I still think that Seven Husbands is a hot mess, and so I can never like fully get behind the unadulterated Taylor Jenkins Reid love, because it's like you also wrote Seven Husbands, and we need to call you out for that. I digress. But I see why, but I also think that you have to actually be on crack. So here's the thing. Me and the good Dr. Professor Ashley Winstead, we're not best friends. And I know that I've said this over the course of the video, but it bears repeating. I think that for the most part, the good Dr. Professor Ashley Winstead is a mediocre writer most of the time, and that most of the books that she has been able to make successful are successful despite her, I want to say lack of talent, but maybe, yeah, it has to be lack of talent. I'm sorry. Like they're successful despite that, and good on her. And I also want to say that in the lack of talent camp, her two romances are the worst in her canon. Like, they're not the best. They are not, I don't think they're on anybody's top 10 list ever. So the idea that we're going to, also at the back, the best love story is the ones you least expect. Selling this as a sort of upmarket romance situation, I think was always going to shoot this book in the, it was going to shoot in the foot. And also we have a situation where previous Ashley Winstead books were coming off of really successful ones, like In My Dreams I Hold a Knife and The Last Housewife, and even the one that's Twilight fanfiction redux, like we're going to examine Twilight through the lens of this weird backwoods situation. Does it say in her back? It doesn't say. I'm sure it says in the actual cover, like in the book, but that's in my car with the rest of my library books. But I guess I do have a computer right here. Let's just open up Goodreads and not hit the cable to my microphone. Midnight is the Darkest Hour. That is a Twilight fanfiction redux. But both The Boyfriend Candidate and Fool Me Once, I think, are slop. They are slop. I know I've read, I think in that same video that I was just talking to you guys about, the one where it's like a March wrap up, I'm pretty sure I talk about both of those books there. And I want to say that I read them, I know that I read them in a vlog, because I have a distinct memory of sitting at Panera back when Panera was selling the death lemonades. And I remember sitting in my car, my old Ford Fiesta. Now I drive a Kia Niro. And so I was sitting in the Ford Fiesta outside of the Panera, and I was updating some video about that. I think it was Fool Me Once. And then I was also reading is it Mame? Is that the one by Jessica George? I was also reading that at the same time, or around the same period in time. And so I was telling people that this is like actual slop. And so all of this is, I know you guys are screaming at me, why did you read this? Why did you read this? Because two things. One, this is a story about a band, and I love a story about a musician, probably thanks to Daisy Jones, but also in spite of Daisy Jones, because I've gone on to love other things more, like The Final Arrival of Opal and Nev is a better book. Is it both? Alyssa Arslon's like Double Exposure as actors, not musicians, and that wasn't as good. But The Unraveling of Cassidy Holmes, which is also a book of the month selection, that was really good. That's like top tier, to be honest with you. It was so good that I've reread it. Like it's top tier. It doesn't get nearly the amount of attention that it deserves. Neither really does Opal and Nev, but I feel like Opal and Nev, I don't know. I don't say it had a moment, but I think that people are more aware of Opal and Nev than they are of The Unraveling Cassidy Holmes. That's a much better book. And so there's a way to go about this that I think is successful. And again, I did like This Book Will Bury Me, and it also dealt heavily with grief from a variety of characters. And I think that was a much better use of our time. Here in The Future Saints, the grief, I think, weighs down the narrative and takes it at times to a deeply unserious place. I don't think that Hannah or Theo, either one of them, are really interesting characters to follow, nor do I feel like they have an interesting relationship. Hannah is the front woman for the band The Future Saints, and Theo is the manager that the record company assigns to get a new album out of them so they can put them out to pasture. And over the course of this time, he really bonds with the band and Hannah in particular. But the relationship between the two is really one of definite convenience and of a sort of forced proximity, and maybe even a bit of like on Hannah's end, I don't want to say like an actual like corruption sort of an angle. I guess you could go there, but not necessarily in I think the sort of ways that people would think when you say that. And then for Theo, it's just like she's a pretty girl. Like she's a very obviously attracted woman, and that's told to us throughout the story. A lot of the time, it's her looks are being commented on by the various social media posts that are also included in the book, and so it just feels very surface level. And so for the ending that these two have, for I guess spoiler, it's a little open ended. So is it even a romance? I don't know. You could argue, I guess, that it is, but it's a little open ended. But it's also I promise to find my way back to you, to make space for us kind of a situation. I know in at least one clip I likened this to reading The Favorites, but I think that The Favorites, for one, is a much more clear-cut romance between the characters, and also the push and pull between those characters felt more earned and more lived in and more realistic and more worthy of anybody's time and attention and care. And so it almost feels insulting to say that this is similar to I do own a copy of The Favorites, also from Book of the Month. I think I resubscribed and I got The Favorites from Book of the Month for the $5. And then it renewed and I said, oh, my bad. And so that's when I got Liquid. And then it renewed again and I said, bitch, you really got to put this on pause. And so I put it on pause until I got this. So also, as you can't see because The Favorites, the book isn't in here, but this book is much longer. This book is 400 pages? Yes. The acknowledgments are on page 436. So the actual book has to be it ends on page 434. This book is literally like 100 pages less. I think this book ends on page 336. And the extra pages definitely help out on something like this, which isn't as multimedia. There are elements to this that are sort of like a documentary footage situation being shot interspersed through the chapters, along with just like regular narration. And this one does the same thing with sort of TikTok posts and interviews and magazine articles that are being excerpted between the chapters from time to time. And then some of them are commented on within the narrative. Others are not commented on within the narrative. And so ultimately, again, like this is just a much stronger book. Last year, this is also part of the reason that I haven't talked about it, because since finishing this, I think of this as like a 5 out of 5, like no notes kind of a book in my head. And I'm going to like have this as a 4-star read. So it's like, how is this a 4-star read when like literally I've not been able to stop thinking about this book all year? Like it's 2026. I'm still thinking about this book. Almost want to reread the book. So The Future Saints is a swing and a miss as far as I'm concerned from Ashley Winstead. At this point in time, it definitely needs to be a nice long break because of the, 6 books? In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, The Last Housewife, This Book Will Bury Me, Midnight is the Darkest Hour, Fool Me Once, The Boyfriend Experiment, and now The Future Saints. I've liked one of them. So it's 100% time for a break between me and Miss Winstead. I don't think I'm going to lose any sleep over the fact that me and Miss Winstead are not going to be seeing each other regularly anymore. If this is a book that you really did enjoy, I really appreciate. Also, I think what really kills me is that Hannah is haunted by the ghost of her like her dead sister. Her sister is dead in the narrative. Her sister appears to her as a sort of like vision, a ghost that she interacts with, almost like an imaginary friend. And it finally does get addressed within the narrative at a certain point, and it forces our main character to come to terms with something that she has been wanting to avoid and not think about. But ultimately, I didn't care for it in the narrative. And maybe that's just me being mean, but it's just like, I understand that Ashley Winstead is like grieving her own thing. And I want to give her space to do that. But I'm just like, you explored this topic much better already. And so to see it explored again here in a way that was just a little silly at times just wasn't necessarily to my particular taste when it comes to this. So again, this wasn't for me. I also don't really know who this is for because, again, I don't really think this is for fans of Daisy Jones and the Six. There are a lot of people who like that book for a variety of different reasons. And to be honest with you, I don't think that any of the lyrics that we do get to any of the songs here really make me want to go and be like, oh, I wish this were real. I don't think that's happening. Now, the Daisy Jones songs didn't really do that to me either. And then they recorded the songs, and to be honest with you, I don't like the recordings. I had to stop watching that TV show as well. Like, I don't like that adaptation really whatsoever. Sorry, Sam Claflin. I think you're too old. You're too old for what they were doing. It was no. Anyway, so like, I just don't see the vision here. I truly don't see the vision for anything that's happening here. And for the myriad of reasons that somebody might like Daisy Jones, I don't think that this is really for those fans. And even for people who are like me, that like upmarket fiction, a sort of just commercial fiction, a women's fiction, romance that leans into a women's fiction. I don't think this is for any of those people. Like, none of those, like, the writing isn't really elevated. The characters aren't the greatest. Like, they just, everything kind of exists. Everything is perfectly serviceable, perfectly fine, but none of it is memorable. And it's just not for anybody that I think I would really tell someone to like go out of their way to read this. If you're already going to read, if you already wanted to read, if you already were expecting to read it, then sure, you might have a good time, but you're not missing out, besties. So let's talk about why I did not do anything else this week. I didn't finish Heated Rivalry. I didn't do People We Meet on Vacation. The movie came out. We didn't talk about that. Like, literally nothing happened that I wanted to happen. And I'm going to blame football. I don't know what has happened to me. I really thought I was going to be a hockey girly, and I watched a lot of hockey in 2024, 2025. But this year I have not watched nearly enough hockey, but I have been tuned in to everything that's happening in football. I was there watching Miami play Mississippi, and I was sick to my stomach watching them Confederates run around that field. And I was like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I can't even say thankfully Miami won, because like, is it really thankfully Miami won? I do appreciate that it's going to shut up the SEC. I like the SEC being shut up. I like them being shut up for 3 straight years like that. I do like that. Clearly, the gauntlet is not the gauntlet y'all thought that it is, that it once was, because it's not there. 3 years in a row, you ain't been invited to no dance. You been kicked out of the party. So I love that personally, just because those people, when I'm trying to see takes from knowledgeable people about the game that I just finished watching, understand a little bit better, doing the research, doing the homework, so I understand, I can comprehend, I can have conversations when I'm sitting there at the bar. I like that, but am I personally invested in it? I don't know. I do want to say this, though. I think the conversation around how old Carson Beck is, I think Carson Beck is like 23 years old now, which is old to be playing college football in my head. But then at the same time, like, they're calling this man, grandpa, essentially. But at the same time, like, 23 is also the average age of the Indiana team that has been steamrolling the competition. And I feel like there's like kind of a disconnect. Like, it's a bad thing for Carson Beck personally to be 23, but like the team that is steamrolling everybody and is now the odds-on favorite to win the Natty overall, like, is the same age as Carson Beck. Like, what is the problem here? I don't really know if I see it. I don't really know if I see what the issue is personally. I do like the sort of narrative that Carson Beck has here, where he was cut from the Georgia team, so he like declared for the draft, like, oh yeah, I'm going to be drafted. And then he actually turned around and said, actually, the University of Miami is offering me a bag. I'm going to go take the bag. And I think his girlfriend at the time was also at the University of Miami. I don't know if they're still together. I don't know what's happening in his personal life, because, again, I don't care about the University of Miami like that. But I do appreciate that. I also appreciate that I shut up Notre Dame, because I think that Notre Dame, they're frauds. Like, as much as I might hate the SEC, they do actually pay, like, they actually do play people that have some kind of talent. Notre Dame just picks and chooses who they want to play. Some of these people have talent. Some of these people don't have talent. They gonna do whatever they can do, and then when they do play good teams, they get washed. And then they want to go look at our record. We got washed by good teams. That should mean something. But the rest of the record is them steamrolling over teams that are just like okay at best, mediocre sometimes. Like, it's not a real school, and for them to be hooting and hollering and talking about, oh yeah, we're sitting out of the bowl games because we didn't get in, and Miami did. When they lost to Miami head to head, so like the idea that you should be in the playoffs over them when you lost to them head to head was already crazy. Sure, the college football ranking people are unserious, and they had Notre Dame above Miami for like literally the entire season, but literally the entire season people are like, but why though? Like the rankings were already fraudulent, and so for them to release unfraudulent rankings to actually do the championship bracket, like it was all of us unserious. All of us unserious. So Notre Dame getting shut up because Miami is great. Carson Beck getting to shut up because he's going to go to the Natty, and Georgia sitting at home. Georgia lost their bowl game. Georgia lost their bowl game to Mississippi. All of it, I think, was just a fun little time. Also, the oh my god, this is so embarrassing. The Indiana-Oregon game also distracted me from doing anything else. And that game was sad to see. I do want to say this though. I think was his name Dan Lanning, Mr. Dan at the University of Oregon. When he I think it was in the first round when they played JMU, and they let JMU get 34 points on the board. I think they got like what 50 points that game, but still they let JMU, the Group of 5 school that everyone was like they shouldn't be in the playoff. They shouldn't be in the playoff. Who do they play? Why are they here? We need to eliminate Group of 5 from the playoff all automatically. It should be 17. There should be 17 SEC. Every SEC school should be in the playoff. And JMU should be out. No one wants to watch these people play. He was so upset that people were talking about his defense, letting the Group of 5 school get 34 points on the board. And I will say that in the next game they were much better. They didn't really let Texas score. Was it a like shutout? I don't remember. But they did do a lot much better. They did do better against Texas Tech, right? Texas Tech, in that game. And they were like, haha, see, our defense is good. Only to get absolutely wrecked, completely collapse against Indiana. And it's not to say that I think that JMU and Indiana are like on the same level. I don't think that, because Indiana got the same number of points that JMU got in the entire game in the first half. So like clearly Indiana is the better team here. Like I don't disagree there, but it's like clearly the math is not mathing, and clearly JMU did deserve to be there. Clear, like you can talk to me all you want about, oh, they were resting starters in the second half. Somebody went in the transfer portal. They lost this person. They lost that. Whatever happened. I don't care what the story is, because the team is the team. The team as constructed is the face of the university in the playoff. So the team that they put out there on the field is the team. Maybe again, I'm just the vibes guy, but the team is the team, and the team as constructed allowed another team to get 34 points on the board. All people that you think are good enough to be on your team and to play however many minutes and whatever kind of situation. Now, I do understand that, you got your first string, your second string, and you got players that are better than other. I understand all of that, but at the end of the day, the team was the team. So that is my little football talk. Let's not even talk about the NFL games, like that Bears Packers game. I'm not even a Bears or Packers fan. My Commanders have been sitting at home all week. They're already on vacation. Okay, they are resting. They're getting drunk. But that Bears Packers game, that was sweet to witness. Mr. Caleb Williams, I'm happy he got to do that in his little time, because last season everyone was making fun of him. Last season everyone was talking down on him, and for him to have this season, I love that for him. Truly love that for you, Mr. Williams. I have nothing negative to say about you. That was a really fun game of football to watch. Today the games are not as exciting. The only one I was able to watch was the Chargers Patriots game. The game is technically still ongoing, and I'm here talking to y'all. I don't know what happened to the Chargers, but they have completely collapsed against the Patriots. To the Chargers fans, peace be with you. The Eagles got eliminated today. I love that for me. Again, I'm a Commanders fan, so I rooted for the Eagles exactly one time in my life, and that was when they were playing the Chiefs, because I could not live in Kansas with the Chiefs three-peat. I couldn't do it. I did not have it in me. I'm not strong enough to do that. And so I appreciated them ending that conversation expeditiously only for them, the Chiefs, to go on and have one of the worst seasons of football they've had in a minute. And I did appreciate that. That loss really rocked them, really shattered them, all the little hopes and dreams, and it has made living here a little bit easier. So I do appreciate them for that. But watching them get sent home today by the 49ers, excellent. Thank you to the 49ers. But that's really all I have for you guys today. I won't be back next week, the vlog, because this coming week, I still need to get on my Patreon vlog and discuss things for them. So if you want to see me again, that'll be the next place to see me. I'm reading Play World by Adam Ross, alongside the book that they chose, which is Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. So those are the things that are at the front of my TBR for the coming week. And I don't know what I'm going to get up to for the rest of the month, but I'll figure something out. I will be here before the month is over for sure. And I can probably guarantee at the end of the month, I'll do some wrap-ups. I can do that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this little check-in up here. I'll see you guys again when I see you. Hopefully you enjoyed this little week with Monty. And stay safe, stay hydrated. And until next time, bye, besties.